In this video, I really want to talk about spinnerbaits. And specifically, I want to talk about a few characteristics that are really important to keep in mind when you're picking out a spinnerbait. Because if you go down your local tackle retailer, I mean, if you look online, everybody and their brother makes a spinnerbait. And so there are hundreds, there are thousands of different spinnerbaits out there. But what kind of makes a good spinnerbait a good spinnerbait? In this video, we're going to talk about that. Now, before we get into it, this video is brought to you by my apparel company, Finn Fishing. And right now for the month of March, so just another couple of days, if you buy a USA made sun shirt, which is one of the only ones made here in the US, or a pair of the newer duck shorts, a water resistant, highly durable, stretchy pair of shorts, you will get a free Buzzer Rocks blood stop formula. Really cool product all in itself. If you've ever hooked a fish in the tongue or in the gill where it's bleeding, you take this little bottle out, you spray it on the fish. It's gonna help clot that blood up and help the chance of that fish living. So really cool product. You can also just purchase it all by itself. But anyways, it is free with the purchase of a sun shirt or the shorts. So I'm gonna leave some links down below in the description. Shopping at Finn Fishing is the best way to help support this channel, and I greatly appreciate it. All right. Let's talk about spinnerbaits. I love me a good spinnerbait bite whenever I can get on one, whether that's in the middle of summer or a lot of times in the spring. We're here in kind of the spring, and a spinnerbait can be a huge player. Now, like I said, not all spinnerbaits are created equal. And one of the biggest things that I always look at when buying a spinnerbait is something that, I have heard every good spinnerbait fishermen talk about. Like literally all of the best spinnerbait fishermen talk about this one thing. And I've noticed that over the years, for example, if everyone who's really good with a certain type of lure is all saying the exact same thing about one thing, then it probably is that important. For example, everybody who throws a big plastic swim bait likes to have head wiggle. All your big names like that head wiggle. Anyone who throws a chatterbait who's like a chatterbait phenom loves to have a composite rod, okay? Anyone who you talk to when it comes to spinnerbait fishing, who's a really good spinnerbait guy, will tell you that they do not want a really thick wire. There are a lot of spinnerbaits out there on the market, especially like the mom and pop ones, that are made with a thicker wire. And the reason why that is good, the reason why they do that is because those spinnerbaits will last you a long time. They will give you a tremendous durability to your spinnerbait. You can hit it up against a rock, you can catch a bunch of fish, it's going to flex, it's going to hold though for a long time. But a lot of anglers out there, like I said, the best ones, they like a little bit thinner spinnerbait wires. They don't want that one that is too thick. And because the biggest reason is that will give the spinnerbait a lot more action. It helps those blades thump. It doesn't help the bait to be so restricted by the wire. And so what I have heard, I don't know that it is true, but again, it's just what I always hear is that if everyone wants a thinner wire, there's probably something to it. Now, what that does mean, you might go through a couple more spinnerbaits throughout the course of a year than you normally do. But if it gets you some extra bites out there, then that's something that you want to think about. Another thing, I heard this from Edwin Evers. If you want to help make your spinnerbait last just a little bit longer, just take you some braided fishing line and literally tie it on that kind of top part of the spinnerbait, right where the two arms come together. That's a lot of times that is where the majority of the flex happens. And when you break a wire, that's a lot of times where it happens. Tying that little braid on there is going to give that wire some support. It's going to allow that spinnerbait to last you a lot longer while using one that has a smaller sized diameter wire on it. So little tip for you guys there. Also, another big thing when it comes to the spinnerbaits is the head design. I think that the head design is more important than we think about because, look, let's one of the most popular spinnerbaits out there on the market is the War Eagle spinnerbait. I have caught a lot of bass on a War Eagle spinnerbait. It's a good spinnerbait. I have no problems with it, but if you look at that thing, it's like a perfect little cone on the front of that spinnerbait. But what I have found over the years is that sometimes the head design does make a big difference, especially with the way that these things fish. And let me explain a little bit more to you. For example, these are the two spinnerbaits that I fish the most. I used to fish the covert. This is the Booyah covert. I used to fish this a lot more. I really started to fish the Berkeley Power Blade a lot over the last couple of years, but there are a few places where I really still like the Booyah Covert. Now, whenever I am fishing a bigger spinnerbait, I would say probably like a 3/4 ounce, 1 ounce spinnerbait. Usually when I'm throwing a really big spinnerbait like that, I prefer to have a spinnerbait. When I'm throwing that size of a spinnerbait, usually I'm slow rolling the bait. A lot of times I do this early pre-spawn. There are times throughout the summer where you will do this as well. But when I like a big spinnerbait, I actually prefer the Covert Series 1. And the reason being is that the Covert, if you look at the head design, remember we're talking about head design. If you look at the head design of this bait, the hook, if you look at where the hook is positioned in comparison to the head, there is like almost a 1/2 inch right here between the bottom of this head and where the hook is. Now, I prefer that. This is the Berkley Power Blade. This is, again, one of my other favorite ones. If you look at where this hook is positioned, you know, you got probably an 1/8 inch between the bottom of the head right here and where the hook shank is. The reason that that is important is when you are slow rolling a bait, I know it doesn't sound like that big of a difference, but this one tends to get hung up, in my opinion, a lot less because that head is dragging on the ground, but that hook is a 1/2 inch above the bottom. And I know, like, again, it doesn't sound like a tremendous amount, but I'm telling you, it is a big deal when you're out there and you're doing this all day long. And so I really like the Covert series when I'm fishing some of those bigger spinnerbaits, 3/4 ounce, 1 ounce, again, because of the head design. Now, most of the time I fish a spinnerbait, I'm fishing a 3/8 or a 1/2 ounce. That's probably my normal go-to spinnerbait. And in that situation, I really like the Power Blade. Now, three big things why I really like this bait over a lot of other spinnerbaits. And, you know, real quick, I thought it's really interesting that my 2 favorite spinnerbaits are designed by Oklahoma anglers. Jason Christie, like, basically designed this bait. Edwin Evers basically designed this bait. 2 Oklahoma anglers. We know that Oklahoma is a spinnerbait state. But anyways, let's talk a little bit about the Power Blade. Now, a couple of things about the Power Blade is that, one, the thing that I like most about it, I don't tend to use a lot of trailer hooks when I'm using a spinnerbait anymore. And I've talked about this endlessly on the channel. I don't necessarily believe in a trailer hook. I found over years and years fishing that if I used a spinnerbait, I got them hooked on a spinnerbait. And for years I thought, man, I wouldn't have hooked that fish on the main hook if it wasn't for that trailer hook. But when I wouldn't use the trailer hook, it seemed like I would always catch the exact same amount of fish, but he would get the main hook. And so sometimes I think that the trailer hook simply gets in the way of the main hook when a fish goes to bite it. Now, with that being said, something about the Berkley Power Blade that I really like, they set this hook back further than a lot of hooks on the market. Look at where this hook ends and look at where that hook ends. It's probably, I don't know, 1/2 inch or so further back. And the thing that I like about that is I feel like it's kind of the best of both worlds. I'm able to use just a single hooked spinnerbait. I don't put a trailer hook, but I still get maybe the benefit of having what a trailer hook is made for, which is if they swipe at the bait, you might just get them by hair. That's one of the reasons that I really like the Berkley Power Blade. The other huge reason that I like about it, this thing has a phenomenal plastic keeper. I primarily put plastics on spinnerbaits. And so usually I'm using like a a Zoom Fat Albert is one of my favorites. Sometimes like a standard Kitech. And the plastic keeper on that bad boy, man, that thing holds them. I don't need to use super glue and it holds them. On the Covert one, it just kind of has one of these wire pins on the back of it. I don't necessarily love those because it takes about 1 or 2 fish and that thing, sometimes you don't even catch a fish and it'll strip right up the plastic. That trailer's gone. I do not want to be switching out trailers all the time while I'm fishing. So that's one of the bigger reasons why I've kind of transitioned to using the Power Blade a lot, because I really like that plastic keeper. The last thing that I really like about the Power Blade a little bit more is that these blades are different than pretty much every blade out there on the market. Most manufacturers of spinnerbaits, pretty much every single mom and pop store, when they get spinnerbait blades, they pretty much get mass-produced spinnerbait blades. The thing that Berkley did that was a little bit different with this particular spinnerbait is they made these very thin. They are a lot thinner than your normal blade. The reason that is good is that if you really want to fish this thing a little bit slower, those blades will turn even when you want to fish it pretty slow. There are times where I'm slinging this thing up against the dock. I'm just kind of creeping it kind of suspended on those dock posts. Man, that is a time where having blades that are going to turn even at a low speed, I think are a really cool deal, a really good deal. Also, you will feel the difference in using, like you could use almost the exact same spinnerbait as this Berkley power blade, and you can almost feel it. You can definitely feel it. You can almost hear the difference in these blades. So to me, you guys know that I'm all about something that's just slightly different. Sometimes just being slightly different than the other person gives you an advantage when it comes to bass fishing. And so that is why I really like this particular blade. Now, these are the two that I like. I'm not saying you guys need to fish these. You can fish any spinnerbait you want, but what I'm saying is that not all spinnerbaits are created equal. So that's really important to understand. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you catch some mondos on a spinnerbait this year, and I will see you tomorrow.